About a year ago, I wrecked my car. It was January of 2025 on a Friday night. I had an appointment after work that should have ended early enough to give me time to get home before dark and the predicted snow, but it ran a little late. And while that doesn't sound too dramatic, anyone who lives in Raleigh, North Carolina knows what comes next. It snowed just an inch or two. But here's the problem with snow in Raleigh. It usually falls after a warm day, and the first layer of snow melts. It turns into water and then freezes underneath the next layer of fresh snow. So, what looks harmless is actually ice in disguise. I was driving my Chevy Tahoe, big engine, lots of torque, front heavy, light in the back. I hit a patch of ice that was probably 50 or 60 yards long. There were two lanes on my side of the road, and thankfully nobody else really around. The back end of my Tahoe started to fishtail, and I tried to correct it, and I almost made it. It was seconds away from spinning clearly into a nice 360 until my front left tire clipped the curb. And that's when my Tahoe flipped onto its side. Before I go any further, let me say this clearly. I was okay. No broken bones, no serious injuries, just a little bit of whiplash and a lot of adrenaline. The tow truck flipped the car upright before I left the scene, and believe it or not, I actually drove it home. The driver's side mirror was barely attached, but it was fine. Driving your car home after it's been on its side is probably one of the scariest things you can do, but it turned out to be one of the best things I could have done. Sometimes you really do need to get back on the horse. But it's not that moment that stuck with me. The moment that stayed with me was 1 second, maybe less. It's when the car started to flip and time slowed way down, like it does in the movies, except this was real life. I could see the snow filling up my windshield and my driver's side window, and I knew that wasn't good. And in that split second, I prayed. It wasn't a long prayer, not a polished one, just this: God, please, please, don't let this car roll. Slow it down and give me one more day. That was it. Because I knew if I started rolling, things could get really bad really fast. Broken bones, paralysis, worse. And sure enough, the car flipped onto its side and stopped. It settled into a snow and mulch embankment between some trees and all the light poles. It didn't even lie flat. There was space between my window and the ground so I could crawl out. Paramedics were there in minutes, and I was close to the hospital, and they walked me through getting out of my car and getting away from it in case it started to slip. Physically, I walked away just fine. But mentally, I carried that 1 second with me all year long. Because that year was a hard year. Nothing catastrophic, just relentless. One of those years where nothing seems to come easily, where every day feels heavier than the last. And over, my mind went back to that one moment. Because in my worst second of the entire year, maybe of my life, my instinct was clear. I didn't ask for money, I didn't ask for success, and I didn't ask for comfort. I asked for one more day. One more sunrise, one more sunset, one more good meal, one more laugh, one more chance to hug someone, one more chance to tell someone I love them, one more chance to live with purpose. I'll be honest, it kind of surprised me that in the moment when I thought my life might end, I didn't want out. I wanted in. I wanted deeper. And that made me ask a question I never really asked before. If you had 1 second, one breath, one chance to ask God for one thing, what would it be? Some people might realize in that moment whether they believe in God at all. Some people might go blank. Some people might think, I'm done. I don't want another day. But for me, the answer was simple. Let me try one more time. And here's the thing. You don't need a car wreck to ask that question. Thankfully, you don't need it, I promise. Because most of us will never face that kind of moment, and I'm thankful for it. But that moment reveals something true about us. It cuts through all the noise, and it gets to the core. What do you want badly enough to ask for one more day? Who would you call? Who would you forgive? Who would you encourage? What would you finally start or finally stop? Because I believe that answer, it quietly drives us every day, whether we realize it or not. So my challenge to you is simple. First of all, don't flip your car. I highly recommend keeping all four wheels on the ground at all times. But I do encourage you to do this. Find a quiet moment and ask yourself the 1-second question. Write the answer down, and then ask, if this is what I'd beg God for in my last second, why am I not living like it matters today? And if you can answer that, you might not just understand who you are. You might start becoming who you were meant to be.